another tax cut. That's more than 20 tax cuts now in 10 years. Not only the tax cut we all experienced on January the 1st, but the overtime and the interest on car payments, as well as the tips. So to the tune of about $237 million. So I feel like we've taken some strides in making Indiana just a little bit more affordable for Hoosiers. We're happy to be able to do that. Having said that, take what questions that you might have.
Senator Bray, the question is, Senate Bill 27, they got the Bears Stadium,
yes.
Stadium Authority. Also attached to that was language regarding roads infrastructure. It's a $250 million.
$250 million in the cash. It's just a way of keeping again trying to be fiscally responsible and making sure that there's not just that the budget committee has a hand on understanding of where those dollars are going.
What would you say is your biggest legislative win in your 2026 session?
Biggest legislative win, I would say, I would say the affordability piece. I mean, to be able to cut taxes again for Hoosiers to the tune of about $237 million is a big win, and we're grateful to be able to do it.
Social media limits have been kicked around in this building for at least the last couple of years. Did the Haley Busby case push that over the finish line?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that kind of cemented how important some of this is, and because that's been hard work, as you guys all understand. You've watched us kind of work and struggle with that issue. The Haley Busby piece kind of just helped us, maybe infused us with a bit of realism about what the real dangers are, and so I think that did help get it over the line.
Senator Rott said today, speaking of those social media restrictions, like, look, there could possibly be court challenges, and they'll be worth it because of the importance of that. Do you agree, and can you elaborate on that thought?
I think the court challenges are a possibility. Look, at least this is my perspective on these limits on social media. Social media isn't particularly new, but legislation to try and rein it in is really in its infancy right now. I think there's a growing understanding of the dangers that social media causes for our youth in particular, and I think that understanding will continue to grow as we kind of learn more about it. And so I think that while this is a first step for legislation, it's not going to be the last time you see us work in this space. We'll continue to make that bill better. You heard some kind of spirit. Well, there's a different, and this happens from time to time, there's just a different perspective between the House and the Senate on this issue. We spent a lot of time, months, on the hemp issue over the summer and in the fall. Obviously, things changed when the United States Congress put into a continuing resolution that hemp essentially was illegal, at least based on the potency of it. And so we pivoted, made our language mirror the federal language. We were not able to get that through the House. I think they have a different perspective on it. I think it's extremely important that we do. We want to make sure that, in particular, our kids aren't going into convenience stores and smoke shops and buying things that are giving them a high and really causing them maybe more damage than we know. So we're going to have to stay on it. And but it's not just as simple as saying, okay, you got to make it illegal for people under 21, because the product, we have to have a grander, larger conversation than that about whether these products are available for people that are over 21.
You passed two different pieces of legislation regarding child care this session. You had access to the fraud fund, and then you had the expansion of the tax credits for employer-provided child care. Is that going to solve our child care shortage?
No, I don't think anyone probably tells you that's going to solve the child care shortage. That's a big one. We hear about it every day. It is two good steps in that direction, though, to try and make it, try and get employers more engaged in it, make child care a little bit less of a cost burden. So we took two steps in the right direction, but I'm not going to pretend that it solves the problem.
Senator Bray, you folks started.
The governor and his administration this session, did they lead on any issues, or did they mostly do supporters? Can you talk about that relationship with them this year?
We've got a good relationship.
Opponents of Senate Bill 76 say that it's a government overreach. What would you say regarding those concerns, the Immigration Matters Bill, the ICE cooperation?
Yeah, thank you. So, it's, I think that immigration issue is top of mind, and we watch that. Some of that's been really, really challenging to watch. But it's important to Hoosiers as well. It's Indiana's a rule of law state, and to the extent that there are people here that aren't supposed to be here because they've broken some of our laws, then we need to try and be helpful to them.
Senator Bray, on the issue of redistricting, which kind of got you folks here early on in the first place, what do you think the complication would be of that going forward in 2026 with your chamber up for reelection?
Well, so I don't know. Somebody smarter than me can tell you that. But as you all know, nearly everybody in the Senate who is up for election is going to have a contested race in May and also contested in November. So this is going to be an extremely spirited election campaign, which we are now going into now that session is over. I think our members are ready and energized, and we've got a fantastic story to tell about where Indiana is with regard to our economic success, with regard to our just the health and safety of the state of Indiana. So they're going to tell that story, and I'm very optimistic that they'll be successful in May.
Last
Were
one.
there any issues or bills that you wish would have gotten across the finish line that you wish that the Senate could have tackled in this session?
Oh, I don't know. It seems like he did a lot. So I'm not gonna. I don't look back and think, boy, I wish we would have gotten that done. Except that Senate Bill 250, with regard to hemp. I mean, we worked so hard on that. We had a lot of support for it here in the Senate. Quite a bit of support in the House, but apparently just not enough to get it across the finish line. So, to the answer to your question, if I was left to think what one thing I regret not getting done, it would be that one for sure.
So what are you doing Monday?
Napping.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Do you want to sneak over here? Is that good over there?
All right.
Got a smile on your face.
Yes,
You look okay.
there was a little bit, we couldn't get out of here soon enough. So this session, we have been focused on affordability, full stop. And we were very intentional from the bills that we filed to the arguments that we made on the floor. And I think we wanted and need to talk about the four pillars, and that would be housing, utility rates, childcare, healthcare, which are the biggest burdens on Hoosiers' pocketbooks every single month when they look at what they can pay and what they can't pay. In the space of healthcare, I think we can't not talk about SB1. I think there's a different approach to understanding that bill. And Indiana has chosen to go further with the cuts to Medicaid than what HR1 or the federal government is asking the states to do. And that kind of deep, deep cuts to the most vulnerable of Hoosiers, hungry kids, frail and sick Hoosiers. Ultimately, those deep, deep cuts, which some could call brutal cuts, are going to show up on all of our health care bills, because we will see those expenses in our hospital charges, because people will wait to get help and they'll end up in emergency care. We're going to see the impact of hungry kids throughout the summer and the cuts to SNAP in the way that our young people grow and are able to flourish. So these cuts in SB1 are beyond what I think Hoosiers deserve, and deep concerns about the cuts in SB1 to Medicaid and SNAP benefits. We can also talk about SB 85 that died in the House, and that was addressing medical debt. That was Senator Godore's bill. He's been working on that for the last several years. And I've only heard that the reason it died was a political reason. And that's unfortunate, because that bill would have helped Hoosiers reduce their medical debt and at least give them the tools that they deserve, that are already there, that Hoosiers just need to know about when it comes to paying their medical debt off. We can also talk about utility rates. Yes, we saw a win in HB 1002. We wanted it to go a bit further, to really bring relief in those utility rates for Hoosiers. But 1002 does bring more accountability and transparency to ratepayers, and they deserve that. So we were fortunate and happy to work alongside our Republican colleagues on 1002. Also, when it comes to housing, we were able to make a little bit of progress, but not a real deep dent in housing accessibility in 1001. That bill sort of came in like a lion and left like a lamb. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. It ended up being just sort of a shadow of itself, and I'm not sure we're really going to be able to address affordable housing in 1001, but we were able to hopefully move the needle a little bit, because housing is one of the strongest impacts on Hoosiers' daily, weekly, monthly budgets every month. And then finally, childcare. No, we missed an opportunity when it comes to childcare. We got a better forecast in December, and we made some deep, deep cuts to CTDF funding and child care reimbursement rates this past summer. But instead of providing that stability, we created the FROG Fund, which may be used for CCDF vouchers. And unfortunately, families cannot plan on May. It seems like a small little may versus a shall, but in real terms, that's instability versus stability. And Hoosier families and Hoosier employers need stability because it will set us up for a strong economic future. Childcare, until we treat it like the infrastructure that it is, the same way we talk about streets, bridges, that's the way we need to be talking about childcare, because it is the infrastructure of our present and our future for the state of Indiana. And with that, we'll take your questions.
On the issue of Senate Bill 27 that will bring the Bear State, create the Bear Stadium Authority. Embedded in that is also legislation that would basically say if you got a road project and it's more than $250 million that goes through one county, it's got to go through the state budget committee. I think Republicans are trying to send the governor a message.
I think Senate Bill 27, as it came back over from the House, had some good changes in it. And we need to make sure that at the end of the day, all the debt is not put on the backs of Hoosiers. And trying to thread that needle was tough. We want to put together a strong package, but we also need to make sure that this isn't going to impact Hoosiers' pocketbooks at the end of the day. So I think those were ways that we could sort of send that signal in that package in trying to attract the Bears to Indiana.
What would you say was your caucus's
Can
biggest?
you discuss what you mean when you say that the medical debt bill died due to political reasons? Can you kind of describe that for us?
So we ended up having, I don't recall, what is the number? 85. No, the Senate Bill
51?
225.
Which I'm off on.
So we ended up passing Senate Bill 225, which deals somewhat with medical debt. But my point was we worked tirelessly, and Senator Kadora worked all summer long. The last year we had a similar bill, and there were some criticisms. It got just so far, and then it died. So he took every single concern, and he solved that problem or their concerns, their hesitancy to support the bill, and you solved every single one of those. And so we get it through, and it almost didn't even make it through the Senate again. And based on what? We couldn't get a real answer from anyone to give us some concrete direction on where to go with this bill in order to provide medical debt relief for Hoosiers. So 225 went not as far as what we would like to have seen in 85, but I know my colleague, Senator Kadora. He's relentless. He's always going to fight for Hoosiers, and I couldn't be prouder to serve alongside him.
What would you say is your
how did
caucus?
the Haley Busby case impact the discussion around social media in this chamber?
I think it definitely made it critical that we addressed it. It came out of 199, and there was a real desire to put something in a bill, and they were able to find a home for it in House Bill 1408. And we were able to get that bill, across the finish line and headed over to the governor's desk. I do want to say this. We all have to be aware and watch out for our neighbors' kids. We have to watch out for our own kids. We have to make sure that our kids are safe and protected. And while 1408 does some things, at the end of the day, we need to make sure that all people know how bad actors can put our children at risk. And 1408 doesn't solve all of our problems. It's just a baby step forward.
What would you say
there
is
could be
your
legal
challenges to it?
We'll have to wait and see.
What would you say is your caucus's biggest legislative win of the 2026 session?
I would say overall, the way we have stood for Hoosier affordability. We've been relentless in talking about the bills that we filed. We've brought amendments to bills. We have debated on the floor, and each and every moment we've brought it back to make sure that Hoosiers' lives are affordable living in this state and aren't becoming more and more out of reach. And I think too many working families are feeling that squeeze. So I think the greatest win, whether it was the 13th check with Niezgodsky, or we had up in Gary, Senator Spencer had some great innovative ways to approach some appraisals with some properties there. And we also had some wins with Senator Pohl and some of his bills. But we have really worked hard to make sure that if we didn't get our bills heard, we didn't go quietly into the night. We made sure that we kept bringing them back as amendments. So Hoosiers would, at the end of the day, know that our number one priority is always them. And we're always going to fight to make sure that Indiana is a state that they can afford their lives and a life of dignity.
Would you consider redistricting what happened at the beginning of session a win?
Say that one more time.
Redistricting at the beginning of session, the fact that it didn't go through, despite all the pressure, the Donald Trump, the primary challenges, would you guys consider that a win, even though it was mostly a Republican kind of related issue?
It was definitely a win. I mean, my goodness, what a way to send a signal to the rest of the country that Indiana is about listening to Hoosiers. That at the end of the day, we're not about mimicking what Washington, D.C. is asking of us. We're going to listen to Hoosiers and make sure that we do right by them. We're serving them. And I think when we came back early on redistricting in December, that was really a win for Hoosiers. But I would also say that's why Senate Bill 1 was so frustrating, because that was a bill that is more of a think tank bill and really wasn't the response of listening to Hoosiers. And so we're going to continue watching that and coming back next year and making sure we fix it.
What's
Senate
your
Bill
take on Senate Bill
285?
76, immigration matters? You mentioned, and several members of your caucus also mentioned, that this is potential government overreach, and there were many concerns that this could lead to increased incidents of racial profiling. What is your ultimate take on Senate Bill 76 and what this could mean for communities?
Thank you, Hannah. I mean, I actually think I said that on the floor. So the concern is that we are now in Senate Bill 76 asking our schools, our pre-K centers, our universities to step in and serve as an arm of the federal immigration enforcement. That, I don't know how you do that. And what's really additionally challenging is it's taking out that mens rea language. And so our schools, our kindergarten teachers, our universities, spaces that should be safe, spaces that should be about opportunity, are now spaces of fear and insecurity and uncertainty. And asking those working in these spaces, not if there is a proven threat, but just unknowingly could be seeing a penalty from the state, that is not a recipe or a foundation upon which to build a thriving state economically. And we want to make sure when we come into this space that we're thinking about ways that we can make Indiana stronger. And Senate Bill 76 is built on fear, and that does not make us stronger.
You talked about Senate Bill 1 as, going to impact some of the most vulnerable. Senate Bill 285, a similar bill, what, unhoused advocates have called the criminalizing homelessness bill. It didn't pass last year, but it passed this year. What do you think changed?
In Senate Bill 285, I think maybe what changed was just a little bit longer to work on turning those yes votes, no votes to yes. I don't know. It's just, it's unfortunate that it passed. Because, on the heels of, 1343, which we chipped away at the way that we redefined the way the Military Family Relief Fund can be utilized. When we know so many of our homeless are military veterans, when we know that so many of our homeless are youth, and yet there were no carve-outs, no ways, exceptions in that bill to make sure that we're serving and responding to the needs of Hoosiers. So criminalizing homelessness cannot be the best way that we address Indiana being a place where you can live and afford living here and do so with a life of dignity. Senate Bill 85 is definitely not the right direction for the state.
Can you talk about working with the governor and his administration? Did your caucus have any kind of relationship with him through all this session? What was that like?
Several of us met with him frequently, reminded him of our initiatives that were important for us, and we will continue to do that. We will always take every opportunity to meet with, talk with, challenge, work with the governor when we can Because at the end of the day, it's not political. It is getting solutions and good policy for constituents, for Hoosiers. And working with the governor is part of that. So that's just part of the game, and it's not a game. I mean, these are people's lives. So it's part of serving our constituents just as best as we can.
So what are you doing Monday?
What are we doing tomorrow? I mean, I would say tomorrow, I mean, we're having a volunteer work day to respond to the tornadoes from last Thursday in Monroe County, 9 to 5. If you're interested, you can meet up at the Van Buren Township headquarters. But we're back to work. You know, life goes on for Hoosiers. We are sine die, the gavel came down, but Hoosiers will wake up and their lives will go on just the same. Looking at their utility bills, looking at their, trying to pay their mortgages, their rent, looking at child care, health care. It's the same. And it is on us, the greatest honor that there can be in serving our constituents, that it is listening, it is showing up, and making sure that we're getting ready for next session with legislation that's going to truly improve the lives of Hoosiers.
Mic check 1, 2, 3. Still good?
You guys ready? All right.
Okay.
Well, look, it's a great way to end session today. I felt like we accomplished what we came early, and we did that in House Bill 1001 and House Bill 1003 in session.
Any transportation project over $50 million has to go to the state budget committee. Do you think the lawmakers are trying to send a message to the governor because the Mid-States project would fall under that category?
No, because I think if you go back and you look at some of the economic development language we've had in the past, they had budget committee review for large purchases. And I think the idea was just, you know, we knew we were going to have to make a big infrastructure investment in Lake County. We wanted to make sure the legislature had eyes on it, and that was the intent of that provision.
Mr. Speaker, you
what
passed
would
two
you
different.
say is your biggest legislative win of the 2026 session?
Well, I think we went straight to affordability. We wanted to make sure we made progress on the housing. We appreciate all the support of all the stakeholders, including our local government partners in that. I think driving down, you know, as we work towards driving down utility costs, so I think all those are huge issues for us.
You passed two different bills dealing with child care. You had access to the Frog Fund and then the expansion of the employer child care tax credits. Does that solve the problem?
Well, look, we've talked about before, it's a big comprehensive problem and one that we're working to resolve. First issue, as I've noted before, is to make sure that there are more options available for families, and that's what we're trying to do. We've tried to deregulate that space, but also to provide, you know, get employers invested in this. Ultimately, they're the ones who see the benefits of a strong child care system because it's their employees that are using it. So we felt like that was an important issue, and we'll come back again next year and make even more progress.
Speaker, you said Delta 8 died in your chamber. What were the issues with that?
You know, we could not get to consensus on that. You know, we had people that felt strongly that it just needed to be banned and not regulated, and we just couldn't find a consensus on that, and a little bit disappointing, but you know, that's part of being a part of an institution where you have a lot of different thoughts and ideas.
What's your take on hemp, though? What's your personal take? Do you think it should be banned?
Look, I would have
regulated?
supported Senate Bill 250, and that was my opinion. But we had a strong caucus, you know, opinions otherwise, and you know, we just could never really get to a consensus.
What about the language dealing with people 20 and under not being able to get access to that? What was the sticking point there?
We passed that. I think there was just some concerns that felt. I don't want to speak for the Senate. I think, you know, there was just some concerns that they felt like that was like creating a regulatory structure they weren't very comfortable with.
Haley
Mr.
Busby's
Speaker, a
father
medical
released a
relief bill-
statement regarding House Bill 1408 passing. He thanked the General Assembly for considering this issue. What is your take on those social media restrictions passing this session?
Well, look, I think it was a great start. I think a lot of us are concerned about the amount of time. It's not just screen time, it's what's taking place in that screen time with these social media algorithms and what they're doing to our kids and particularly their cognitive abilities. So I think that is a great piece of legislation. I appreciate is a huge team effort. Representative Bainey, Representative King, so many other reps who were actively involved in that, Dr. Jenner. So I think it's a great piece of legislation, and you know, I think it's something we also have to do, spend a lot of time making sure parents aren't just aware. It's not just about screen time, it's what their kids are looking at and doing.
Are you
Mr.
concerned
Speaker,
about
medical
legal
debt-
challenges to some of that language? I know Senator Ross talked about that today.
I don't know what there could potentially be, but we'll see.
Mr. Speaker, what is some perceived inconsistency? On the one hand, obviously we want to crack down on inappropriate material getting in front of kids with social media, but at the same time, lawmakers gave tax breaks to data centers where a lot of that information is going to be stored.
Well, what we did in the data center realm was make sure that they share some of their utility sales tax exemption with local communities. We didn't do anything else in that regard.
Why
A
the
medical
change of that
debt
language?
relief bill passed out of the Senate with bipartisan support. It had a lot of support from the public as well. What's wrong in the House?
Well, I think that we addressed it a different way and a different. Appreciate the leadership to find Representative McGuire to find a solution. It's a complicated issue because you want to find the right mix of dealing with the debt, and yet not creating bad incentives. And I thought they did a really good job.
Some places like the American Cancer Society, though, have said it doesn't go far enough. What would you say to those folks?
I would say we'll meet again next year, but I would take the progress we had.
There were a number of immigration reform bills that passed this session, Senate Bill 76, House Bill 1200. What was your take on immigration reform?
Well, again, I think we were just making sure there was alignment in the federal and the state laws, and this is an issue where we want to make sure we're enforcing the laws. I think all those bills did that.
Are you happy with where the casino conversation ended up, both in terms of location and application fee and the required investment?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Regarding the casino, are you happy with where that ended up regarding the fee and the location?
Yeah. Very parochial issues, and I've invited and appreciate the leadership of and Quina caucuses trying to find a solution. They good spot.
Senate 56, the bill, it prevents programs. Might do some would hurt tuition. Suggested that could be offset by tuition. Holding flat has been a big priority for you guys. Are you concerned about that?
To be honest with you, no one higher ed expressed those to me, so I've not heard that. I've heard that partners on Senate Bill 256, but none of them have ever expressed that concern to me.
What this is regarding education, there was a number of things passed this year, last year, that kind of degree programs. They want to look at higher ed accreditation now. What's the motivation?
I think just in Indiana, but nationally, I think we want to see higher ed evolve to the 21st century, and the economy, and we going to college and they're getting the types of jobs they're spending money, they're getting in degrees and programs are going to be a good ROI, so that's certainly a part of it. And we also need higher ed to really be more cost conscious, more cost sensitive, and I think we've got great public higher ed partners here in the state, and they've been responding well to this, and we're grateful and thankful for that. And I think Dr. Jenner's done a great job of bringing them along and supportive on all these pieces of legislation.
How did anything get done that you wish you would have gotten done, or something that wasn't addressed that you wished would have been?
Oh, I think, you always have those things that you'd like to get across the finish line. But, no, I was really, really, really pleased. I mean, things came together in the last couple of weeks like they always do. I appreciate the partnership we have with the governor's office and the Senate. And that makes it a lot better and a lot funner to get these things done.
The Illinois General Assembly still has a little ways to go before they adjourn. How concerned are you that they may come up with a better deal? Is that,
The who? The
Illinois General.
Can't control Illinois. I had a great partnership with the Bears. It's been fantastic to work with. I think appreciated the way we work and we do things. Ultimately, I feel very good about it, but there's some I just need to get worked on. But see what Illinois does. I'm not. I know what Indiana did. I know what Indiana did, and I know what Indiana as well. I am with the Bears in Lake County and Indiana.
So what do you
Mr.
do on
Speaker,
Monday?
how did the Haley Busby case impact the conversation surrounding social media and going on for a couple of years?
Yeah, I think that case certainly terrible situation, and very powerful testimony of her father, Bo. But I also say had a huge impact on how the alert system. So, unfortunately, a terrible situation, but we were addressing.
Regarding repairs, is that going to be possible without buying a residential home?
We feel very good about that.
How have already agreed to $1 billion commitment, but what would you say regarding Hoosiers who still have questions about?
Sure, and I would just remind them this is the same funding method that we use for the stadium, for house and other athletic properties in Indianapolis. It's really user pays. I mean, it's predominantly funded out of the dollars spent in those facilities. So that's, I think if you're a Hoosier, you're going, this is a great investment because the people are going to use it are going to pay, but for that facility, but all that economic development, all the things that take place around it is a benefit to not just that region of the state, but all of Indiana.
On the carbon bill, was there a particular reason why you went down to the Rules Committee? And can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was a process thing. Representative Pierce had some concerns about, whether it just come back straight to the floor. We kind of had precedent that said we'd done it both ways. I just wanted to make sure it got resolved and settled. The best way to do it is to take it to the Rules Committee, and that's what we did.
So what are you doing Monday?
Wait, I think Tom had a question, like a real one.
I'm heard. With the Bear Stadium, how dependent is it if Porter County and Lake County don't go along with these taxes? Is the tax increases, does that
Look, I've had great conversations with the folks up there. I thought the Ways and Means meeting was fantastic. We'll continue to talk to them. I'll probably be up that way soon to continue those conversations. And but I think they're excited to be partners. They recognize what this is going to be in Northwest Indiana, and also we did here in Central Indiana to support the CIB project. So I feel great about the conversations with the local officials up there have been nothing short of fabulous, and they've been.
Sorry, go ahead. Nope, go ahead.
How involved did you see during the session? He did high profile on it after redistricting. How he was?
The governor's office. Senator Ray and I met with him. As active and, in the state of the state, his priorities like House Bill 1001 this session, 1002, and Senate Bill.
Say that anything about the redistricting vote or changed anything about the legislative session this year?
Just that we got done in February, which I think is fabulous. So it was fabulous. Nope,
Some comment. What else do lawmakers now need to go to?
I mean, I want to figure on that. The really issue is a complex issue, and we can do things that, like, try and create, which would help reduce what we try to do. We're doing in 1002, doing things to encourage, performance-based rate making. Those are very, very important things. I think the best thing we can do is create a heck of a lot of economic development, and that's what we're doing, and seeing growth, and that's going to be the things that are going to address the affordability issue.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry if I'm whacking anybody.
No, you're all good. Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay if I put this right here. Okay. I'm not going to do this.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, I probably will. See ya. Take care. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, it is.
So what are you doing Monday?
Back to work. Yeah, good to be here again with you all. Thanks for coming. And when I kind of think back at this session, a very long, short session, we got baseball season coming up. Just seems like we hit a lot of singles and not a lot of home runs. And obviously we started way back in December. And here we are, so I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
On the issue of the football stadium, embedded in that legislation was legislation that would basically said any sort of road project or highway transportation that costs more than $250 million has to go to the state budget committee. The theory is that lawmakers weren't happy with the governor, so they went after the mid-state corridor project. Any thoughts on that dynamic?
Yeah, that's not a theory, that's fact.
Thank you.
Legislators aren't happy with that. And we talk a lot about more oversight, things like that. So that's one piece of the bill that I was very happy to see, to let the budget agency do their thing and just add more, shed more light. I will point out by saying the biggest win was happen, which this map was not a success. And if you remember, we did this back in December, and we were very happy to see it defeated. I think we could have ended the session there, would have been perfectly happy, but I'd say the biggest win for not only House and Senate Democrats, but frankly, for democracy in the state, for all voters, that we aren't going to be messing around and doing mid-decade redistricting. Very happy that that was obviously defeated. And then, our members obviously worked extremely hard, and just a couple of the bills that they authored and got over the finish line. Representative Novak, brand new member for our caucus. It's VFD clothing and automobile allowances, help more allowances for firefighters for their protective gear. There's other things. Representative Tanya Paff, promote data-driven decisions when it comes to students with special needs. So our House caucus did a great job. Got amendments in bills. They got their own bills passed. Very, very pleased with what they did.
There were two child care related bills this session across the finish line. There was 1177, the expanded tax credits for child care, employer child care, and then there was the access to the Frog Fund. Will this hold over child care long enough to get to the next budget?
Probably not. We still have a wait list, and we still have providers that are closing because there's just not enough money to help providers and get folks off this wait list. We could if we wanted to, but unfortunately I don't think, while those are nice steps, again, I mentioned we had a lot of singles, and these remind me of more like bunt singles, but yeah, just not good enough in my opinion to really kind of make a dent in the wait list and to help those providers that are closing, and that's what's really causing the problem in the state.
How did the Haley Busby case impact the conversation around social media guidelines in this building?
Oh, I think it had a great impact to and students and things like that, but there were not dealt with that issue. So I think that was, we see that a lot. We see in session, things can happen that impact legislation going forward, and unfortunately that the whole story and that tragedy is awful, but I do think it probably had some impact on what we can do to help in the social media world.
There were a number of immigration reform bills that passed this session, House Bill 1200 with CDL changes, as well as Senate Bill 76. What was your take on immigration reform in general this
Sure.
session?
Yeah, I think, the biggest take is that we never seem to work to get to the root cause of problems. And we know that with homeless folks, a lot of it is mental health, and we don't ever do enough to get to the root cause of problem. Instead, we're going to continue to look for ways to potentially now have to build more jails, because that's what's going to happen. And we've seen this, that's what the Sheriff's Association will tell you, that we are not equipped. We aren't social folks that can deal with these homeless folks that have these mental health conditions and these problems. And so while it may seem like we're going to be doing something, in the end, we're not really solving the problem. In fact, we're probably adding to our problem with now probably, frankly, more overcrowding of jails.
Several Democrats changed their vote on the carbon bill to vote for it. Do you have any insight on their thinking with that?
I don't know. I have not talked to each of them individually as to why they did that.
Regarding the casino that could be coming to your neck of the woods, are you happy with that, where that ended up, and are you concerned about the cost of the application fee plus the required cost of investment into the casino? Does that work in an Allen County area that's not as populated as Indianapolis or a major city? Yeah,
well, a couple things. One, the referendum went into the bill, which I think, frankly, is consistent with what we've done. The last one being in 2019 when the casino license moved down to Vigo County. And again, when we talk about transparency and things like that, what better way than to let folks have some say in that decision? The price tag is high, so we'll just have to see, and we'll see what kind of the number of folks that are going to, casinos that are going to want to bid on something like that. But there is probably enough population in that northeast area, corner of the state, that it can, be somewhat comparable to, in the area of Indianapolis that you mentioned. So I suspect that we will have more than one business bid on that, and yeah, we'll see where it goes from there.
Phil, how would you describe the relationship between the governor and the legislature this session?
Probably not great. I'm not in a lot of those meetings, but it doesn't feel like he was very involved. I don't know if he just thought it was a short session, not a budget year. Maybe he didn't think he would have to be. But I did not necessarily see where he was involved too much this session.
Was there any particular piece of legislation that you found most disappointing that got across the finish line?
Well, yeah, I mean, when I look at the House leadership bills, when it comes to, we've talked about doing something about the cost of living in this state. And I'm going to get my bill numbers mixed up because I'm tired, but I believe it was 1002. And, again, I keep saying this again, but these singles, these just, no home runs, nothing that really kind of knocked it out of the park when it comes to what can we do to help people that are struggling with their utility bills and just the overall cost of living. We wanted to say, again, I've said this before, data centers get a tax break on their sales. Why can't that happen for ratepayers as well? I know they put in the 1% issue here that we had just here in closing days, but really just not enough, I don't believe, to address the issue of affordability.
The Illinois General Assembly still has a ways to go before they adjourn. How concerned are you that the Bears will ultimately just go with whatever plan they come up with?
Well, it is interesting. I notice they're going to be reconvening after their primary sometime in mid-March. Obviously they know what our package is here, and so they can look at that and kind of one-up us, I guess, if you will. But that's just kind of the way it goes. That's the way the calendar is. I'm not going to blame the Bears for wanting to, quote, get more bids, if you will, and exploring the idea. I'm happy that they certainly explored the idea of coming to Indiana. But I also know, they have a long history with Illinois, obviously, with the Bears being there a long time. They have a long history with in Arlington Park? Heights, yep, Arlington Heights, with, the last 3 or 4 years working there too. So, I'm not going to blame them for wanting to explore other options. Right. Wait a minute.
Now you can ask your question.
I already did.
Well,
Now's the time.
I do want to end by saying this. Thank you again for everything you do, your hard work, late nights, all that stuff. I really do appreciate it. And I hope you all are able to